Right, hello lads and lasses and welcome back to Boys Down Under, where today the Celts are in Oz, more specifically in Sydney, my hometown, and we're going to cover pretty much the whole week of what's in store for Celtic while here in Australia. But before we go any further, if you guys are enjoying the content, you want to help support the channel, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So, apologies for the lack of videos on me. I've been busy, but I've also been prepping for what should be a very hecticated week for both me and for Celtic, and hopefully for the channel, because right now I believe we are on life support. So we need things to pick up a bit, and which is why I need you all to like and subscribe. So I thank you all for doing that. Now, while at the time of recording, Celtic haven't posted anything officially, but it has been shown that, well, Celtic are now in Australia. Now, the young lad, of course, Stephen Welsh, jumped the gun, and he posted a photo of Sydney Harbour on his Instagram story. And you really wouldn't expect Celtic to get here any later. Ange and the boys have an absolutely massive week ahead. It begins not against Sydney FC. However, tomorrow there is an open training session at Allianz Stadium at 4 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So it's a chance for everyone. And it's free, by the way, completely free. It's a chance for everyone to go see the team train. And it's just gonna be more just to put the players through the paces. It's been a long flight over. They have today to do whatever they want, sleep, I guess, if jet lag's affecting them. But it's not to adjust to the Aussie climate. I can guarantee you guys that, because well, that's what everyone would think it is. It's not, because it's gonna be wet. So rather, it's just gonna be an absolute replica of Scotland. Maybe not as cold, but certainly just as yucky and sticky and moist. Ugh, yuck. Anyways, the following day we do, Celtic kick off the Sydney Super Cup against Sydney FC at Allianz Stadium. Now they kick off at 7:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which, if I am correct, should be 8:45 a.m. Glasgow time. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that I've got my conversions right. Now, Sydney FC used to be powerhouses in the league. Now, while they still can put on a good show, they are coming off the back of a humiliating derby loss to Wanderers. And while it was only a 1-0 loss, and you might be like, that is not anything, there is nothing wrong with the 1-0 loss at all. The circumstances of this match were huge. I'd love to go into detail about it, but I don't want to bore you guys. Just know that they're coming off the back of a humiliating, embarrassing defeat. So they're going to want to stick it to Celtic. I think that's a great way to undo the losses of their derby. I don't think that makes sense, but if they can knock off a Champions League outfit, well, that is a little positive. But I don't think Ange will want that to happen, or will let that happen. But we'll have to wait and see. Anyways, after that match, the boys get a 2-day break, and then we head into the big one against Everton. Now, Everton is somewhere Ange has been stupidly linked to for a managerial role. Ridiculous. Anyways, that kicks off here in Australia on Sunday at 2:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So that should be 3:45 a.m. Glaswegian time. I hope. Now, I really do hope that's correct, because otherwise I'll look like an absolute mug. But if I get it right, I look like an absolute brainiac, which is something good. Now, it's funny. I'll tell you why it's funny, because this is going to be the roles reversed. Now, while the 8:45 a.m. kickoff is not bad at all, 3:45 a.m. kickoff, you guys in Scotland, you get to experience pretty much what we experience here in Sydney, unless Celtic get the early kickoff, which is 11 p.m. here in Australia most times. We're usually up for kickoffs at around 2 a.m. and if it's the Champions League, 4:30 to 6 a.m. anywhere between there. 3:45 a.m. is probably the worst kickoff time ever in football. Like, if you get 3:45 a.m., it's too early to go to sleep early, and it's not late enough. No, it's too late to stay up for, and it's too early to go to sleep, because you don't get enough hours of sleep, and if you go to sleep early. So that's that. That's unfortunately how it works, but you guys can watch through Celtic TV. So if you want to watch, I do recommend it. Get to see Allianz Stadium, good stadium. Homebush, not so good. Anyways, onto the Celtic squad. Now, that is it for the Celtic squad. The Celtic squad, after that match, they get to enjoy, I don't know, a couple more holidays. I don't know. I actually don't know what's in store for Celtic after this one. I don't know if they all have to return to Scotland or if they get an extended break here in Australia. I'm not too sure. I'm not too certain, but we'll have to wait and see. But for matches, that is the end for them. But for Ange, he has a little bit more to do. Now, he has 2 evening performances. Well, they're not performances as such because Ange isn't like, I don't know, he isn't like a zoo animal. He isn't on display. But he is going live to tell his story in person, once in Sydney on the 22nd of November and in Melbourne on the 23rd. And if you're in Melbourne and you can't make it to the football, highly recommend going to watch this. I'm going to watch it in Sydney. And it's practically Ange's story, and it's Ange documenting his story so far. They're labeling it An Evening with Ange Postecoglou, the untold story. So maybe there'll be stuff in there that the media isn't knowing of just yet. But by this point, and most Celtic fans know every little thing there is to know about Ange because, we just bloody love him. Anyways, hectic schedule for Celtic, hectic schedule for Ange just before the World Cup kicks off and we'll call it a talk show, but it isn't really a talk show. Anyways, happening in Sydney, ironically, the night before Australia's first ever World Cup match. So, and the 22nd November, he is speaking at I can't remember not the Lyric Theatre, and it's not the ICC, it's somewhere, can't remember exactly what it's called. I have the ticket, but I don't have the name. Anyways, that's like at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. maybe. I'm not too sure. But anyways, you fast forward 12 hours to 6 a.m. the next morning, Australia play France, about to knock off the World Cup winners. Trust me, Australia wouldn't cause an upset there. Anyways, one player who is not unfortunately taking part in that match is former Celt Tom Rogic. He was left out of the Australian squad altogether, which I'm sure most of you know. Something that really shouldn't have happened, a mind-boggling decision for me from the Aussie coach Graham Arnold. Rogic has got the X factor. It's as simple as that. Regardless of if he didn't play in the qualifiers, I'd much rather have Tom Rogic in a team than Keanu Bacchus. But that's just, it's very, very unfortunate for Tom. I wanted to see him play, but, get to see Aaron Moisey play. Love to see it. And be funny. We'll say he'll play a different role for Australia. Watch, he'll be playing a deep lying playmaker. He won't be the attacking midfielder. Anyways, one former Celt, however, who is going to the World Cup that I'm not sure many of you will remember played for Celtic is Jackson Irvine. Now, Irvine has played for a lot of Scottish clubs, but he did in fact start his career at Celtic, and he touched down in Doha, which I believe is the capital of Qatar, with the rest of the squad. But that wasn't why we're talking about him. We're talking about him because he absolutely captivated the Australian media and pretty much, the whole Australian media touching down, and he was wearing the iconic 97-99 Celtic home kit with none other than former Celt and Socceroo Mark Viduka on the back. Now, in my eyes, that is my favourite Celtic home kit ever. That is arguably my favourite Celtic kit ever. That is iconic. That is typical. That is your typical retro shirt. I love that. If any of you can direct me to where I can get one of those shirts, obviously not with Viduka on the back, but just the shirt, just the kit itself, for a reasonable price, I thank you very, very much, because I've been looking. But I can't, it's very hard to tell if it's a replica kit or if it's just, a shirt and it's not good quality. It's very hard to find, but if one of you guys can find me somewhere reputable and at a reasonable price, I'd be very, very indebted to all of you because I want to get my hands on it. I really want to add that Celtic jersey to my collection, Obviously, if I can get an iconic player on the back, not naming names, but a certain super Swede, it would be obviously an added bonus, but I'm not picky. I will take the jersey just by itself regardless. But enough of me waffling and fantasizing about the home kit. Back to the Sydney Super Cup. Now, I'm not 100% certain on whether it will be 5 subs or it will be unlimited subs. I'm hoping unlimited subs purely to see more players, but certainly, Ange will use this time to analyse some of the lads who haven't really got an opportunity so far this season. Now, I'm not talking about the B team players because they get to play week in, week out for the B team, and Ange, I'm sure, gets regular progress updates from Darren O'Day, and he sees them in training like Bosun Law. But I'm talking about first teamers, and the first player is one who it seems to be a recurring theme of gets a few opportunities but something goes wrong. Yusuke Itaguchi. Certainly, I think he will certainly get game time, but then I just have the feeling that he'll get game time, he'll show some impressive feat. We return from the World Cup break and he won't even get in the squad. He won't even get onto the bench. And that's unless we have a major injury crisis. And it's a bit of a shame because he's shown really good glimpses of form, but he can never string together performances, and he never gets performances strung together either. So that's unfortunate for him. Secondly, and a player in a similar boat to Yusuke is Oliver Abilgor. Now, I thought he was going to take the league by storm. I thought he was going to push Callum McGregor further up the pitch and be Celtic's starting CDM, no questions asked. Oh, how wrong was I? Anyways, I'm sure we'll see him in the mix, especially considering now we have Aaron Moy out on international duty, along with Callum McGregor still being injured. Albeit we do have a strong midfield quartet. Seth Haksabanovic can play in the midfield. Turnbull's back. He's doing very well, David Turnbull. Rio Atate's firing. Matt O'Reilly firing. So those are some players, Abilgor and Yusuke Itaguchi, who I think, if they do get an opportunity, they're going to have to impress if they want any hope of featuring in the back end of the season. And while I do mention that these players are going to get opportunities, Ange isn't going to be seeing these matches as exhibition matches. He's not going to come back to Sydney with his Celtic squad just to lose 2 matches after everything he's accomplished in Scotland, to come back down Oz and just lose a couple of matches because they're exhibitions, they're friendlies. Maybe against Sydney FC, we'll see a weaker lineup. But I say that, Celtic could field 2 completely different starting 11s and they'd be arguably as strong as each other. With Celtic's depth, it's ridiculous. If we don't start Kyogo, we start Giacomakis. If we don't start Jota and Haksabanovic on the wing, we start Leo Labarded and James Forrest, or even the young Rocco Vada, who's made the trip down to Australia. The only spot I don't see us rotating is the right back spot because of Tony Ralston. Juranovic is off with Croatia. We only have Ralston as a right back. The only other player I can think who might be able to put in a shift at right back is, what's-his-face? Bosun Law. Unless, Ange does a bit of mixing around and puts Bernabé or Greg Taylor at right back just to fill in the void for a shift or 2. But that doesn't matter, because for those of us here in Australia and here in Sydney, and no, in Australia, because I know there's quite a lot of people actually from different parts of Australia travelling to Sydney to see this, because it's much more worthwhile. Why wouldn't you? This is it's a very rare occasion, very rare opportunity. It's an opportunity to see Celtic's best in action, and something I can't wait for. It's an opportunity to see Ange's Ange Ball in action, in the flesh. And I'm really excited, and if you can't already tell, I am very, very excited. I've made a whole video talking about it, and I've made many videos talking about it. While it won't be the same atmosphere as Parkhead, it should be a very great spectacle, and I can't wait, I'm very much looking forward to it. I'm very excited, and it starts tomorrow. It starts with the open training session. Hopefully, might be able to meet a couple players. We'll have to wait and see about that one. But that is all from me. So if you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, leave in the comments below your thoughts on the cup. Are you making the trip over? Are you going to watch the games? What do you think of it? And until next time, hail, hail.